Alright folks, in this video I'm going to be doing a detailed strip down of a gun which gets a lot of different opinions in both real life and in airsoft. It's the G&G L85. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the real gun. You know, a lot of airsoft videos do that and I personally think it's a bit pointless. This is airsoft. The gun bears very little resemblance other than visual to the real gun. And you know, you get a lot of people that want to hate on the L85. And I mean, if they just don't like it, that's fine. Everybody's got a preference. But you know what airsoft's like? Half these people that complain and say how crap the L85 is have probably never even held a real one, and certainly not in the last 10 years since it's been improved. Anyway, like I said, not going to talk about that. Let's just get straight into the strip down. Right, the first step as ever, get the magazine out. I know this one isn't loaded anyway, but get the magazine out. Up the top here you have a body pin that just pushes through it. And then the whole thing should just slide apart. Now the wiring is a mess in here. It was a lot tidier, but I've already took it apart and had a kind of look at it and just stuffed it back in there so I could take it apart for this strip down. Now the upper receiver assembly is fairly straightforward to take apart. The barrel pulls out of here. There's a catch just down in there. Pop that to the side and the barrel should just come out. Yep, there you go. Now this is an aftermarket barrel that's been fitted. It's a Mad Bull I think, and you can see that probably to save money they fitted a shorter barrel than you could really put in there to maximise the barrel length. We do have a new barrel for that, a Neutral stainless steel 6.03, but we'll come back to that. The handguard is held on, or held together with a single screw in here. That allows the two halves to come apart. You can see the mock gas parts in here, the wiring extending through. The receiver on this one has been painted. I think it was originally a two-tone because you can see some of the green, but the finish, I don't know if the camera is picking it up there, it's not very good at all. You can tell it's been very roughly painted and it's coming off in places. So we'll get that in the blast cabinet in a little while and we'll blast it back and paint it like you've seen me do in previous videos. Get it back to a nice matte black finish. The lower receiver houses all the gearbox, the firing mechanism and all that good stuff. You can see the wiring here. As I says, that was a lot more tidy, but I stripped the heat shrink off to have a look at it. Some of the wires have came off. There's been a homemade MOSFET put on there. It's pretty good, it works pretty well. It is missing a diode, which when you're using an inductive load like a motor isn't a good idea because you get voltage spikes and the diode would protect the MOSFET. We'll redo all that in the rebuild phase, but let's get this gearbox out. So in here, I don't know if you can see that there is a pin with a sort of swivel lock on the end. So pull the swivel lock out like that. And it should just pull out a little bit tight. There you go. That's the swivel there. We'll set that to the side. What that allows is the top of the gearbox to come off, because the gearbox is in two pieces in these, and I personally quite like this design because if you needed to change a spring or a piston, you can just pull this section off and you don't need to disturb the gears. We'll set that to the side, we'll strip that down shortly. The gearbox is quite tightly squished in there. There's a couple of things we need to remove. There's a pin here, it just pushes through. Just push it a little bit there, and then you can grab it from this side. Next part is to get the bolt release here off. There's a small wire clip just here that pulls out. And then it should just draw through. Then the gearbox is more or less ready to pull out, so it just lies up and it's a tight fit across here, but it will come, and that's the gearbox. It's a little bit misunderstood, this gearbox. Obviously it looks completely different from the version 2s and 3s that most people are used to, but you know, it's not as scary as it first looks. This one's been rewired just to work off the MOSFET, but normally there's an additional contact here. And the way this gearbox works is when you fire it, at the right moment it reverses the polarity through the motor, so you get a sort of active braking, and the gearbox, when it's wired as it is in the factory, will stop at the exact same point in its rotation every time. But we'll come back to that. So that leaves us the lower receiver. You can see the trigger bar in there working, which would normally actuate the gearbox from this point here. We're not going to take the trigger bar out because there's absolutely no need, or the trigger or the pistol grip. The pistol grip comes off with that Allen bolt there. We don't need to remove the magazine catch. If you did, it's just a matter of straightening out that pin, pushing that through. We don't need to take off the selector switch. We don't need to take off the butt pad, but if you did, it's just 2 bolts in here and here. That comes straight off as an assembly. It's clamped in place by a pot metal casting in there. That's where the back of the gearbox locates in, that sort of circle area. But that is basically the gun stripped down into its main components. So onto the upper gearbox section, which contains the spring, the piston, the power cylinder, the nozzle, tappet plate. It's held on with a number of screws, 3 around its edges. Just hold the spring guide down and pull it off. And that's it safe. So spring guide, main spring, tappet plate, nozzle and its spring, piston. See, somebody's fitted a, I think that's an aftermarket cylinder head. The O-ring has seen better days. This one's got a little bit of wear, but it's still got some life in it yet. Cylinder head, its seal's in good condition, just needs a clean up. And the power cylinder, which is painted black because it's visible through the bolt opening, and it's worn off a little bit. We'll give that a wee sandblast and another coat of matte black paint. So this is the main gearbox of the L85, and it looks completely different from a standard sort of version 2 or version 3 that you would see in M4s and AKs and stuff like that. But in principle it is exactly the same. It's just very confusing at first because you've got a lot of stuff on the outside of it. But these parts on the outside look different from a more common type of gearbox, but they perform the exact same function. And another good function of this gearbox is it has a decocking lever, for want of a better word. You know, if the gearbox is locked up under tension, you can pull that and it releases the anti-reversal latch and lets the gears and the spring relax. But anyway, let's get it stripped. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the motor cage, which is here. It's held on by 2 Torx bolts. They are a T10, I believe. And there you go. There's the motor cage separating, and it runs on a slider here. We'll strip the motor out later on for a little look. And so this is the main gearbox body. You have a number of pieces on the outside. You have the bolt catch here. You have this assembly here, which is the trigger actuator. This lug here sits on the long trigger bar inside the receiver, so when you pull the trigger, it pulls that in. This big piece here is the cut-off lever for semi-auto fire. There's a problem with this one. It's made of soft pot metal, and the small bump in there, which runs on a cam on this gear, has worn down a little bit, so it's not bumping up enough to disconnect the trigger. And at the same time, you can see here the unlocking lever I was talking about and how it works the whole system to release the gears. You can see there that the gears will rotate in one direction but won't go back, and then when you push this up, they're totally free in both directions. It's a good little design that. I wish more gearboxes had it. So let's start by getting some of these components off the outside and their associated springs. It's fairly simple, they're all held on with screws. You might be able to see here the bump on top of here. It should be a lot sharper than that, but being soft metal it just wears away. So when the cam comes round it's not pushing that down enough. We'll either purchase a new one of those or make a new one. This cover piece comes off separately to access the trigger contacts. There you go, you can see the trigger contact in there, and that's how it actuates. And then the main actuation piece that takes the movement from the trigger and transmits it to the gearbox. And there we go, the whole gearbox pretty much stripped of its external parts. The trigger contacts should just push out, you need to watch you don't lose the spring. Put that to the side just now, leave it on the wiring. I'm going to replace the wiring or at least tidy it up, but for now we'll just leave it all connected. And that's us pretty much getting into it. Now there is a little bit of wear on some of the bushes, so I am going to open up the gearbox and see if we can get replacements for them. But to open up the rest of the gearbox shell itself is very simple. On this one there's only 2 screws here and here. Hey presto. So you can see that it's immediately recognisable. You've got the sector gear here, you've got a spur gear, and you've got the bevel gear there, the internal piece of the anti-reversal latch, and that's basically it. I'm not going to worry too much about preserving the factory shimming on this because I will re-shim it before I put it back together. But if you were just opening this up to change the grease, you would collect all these shims, there's one there, and make sure they go back onto the correct gear pinions. But as I say, we're going to be rechecking this and possibly changing the bushes anyway, so it's good to go. So coming back to the motor cage, take off its preload spring. These connections have been soldered on, so I'm just going to snip them off just now and we'll tidy them up later on. There's one screw holds on, and then the whole thing slides apart. Now I've already backed out the motor load adjustment screw here. That allows the 2 cases to slide apart. You can see the catch here. So slide it back and lift it. Now you need to watch because there is a metallic disc here which acts like a shim for the preload screw. Don't lose that. And there's the motor itself. Right, so that's that stripped down. Now I should have said at the start of the video that this L85 is actually quite an old gun and it's changed hands a few times. So as a result there's been a lot of people working on it over the years. There's been some things done to it, some work, some don't. You know, we found that barrel was too short, so we've got a new one of those to go in. We had the problem with the piston, which I'll explain better in part 2. Basically they'd put 2 tight O-rings on there thinking that would increase the seal, and it's actually made the gun have next to no compression. We'll put that right. We've got the problem with the cut off lever. I'm a bit loath to put a new standard one in because okay, it will last for a while but it's just going to wear like the old one did. And the spring's been cut. With the spring, at least they've made an attempt to tidy it up. You know, they've ground the end of it flat, but it could do with just a little bit of work. That's probably been done because the gun's maybe been a bit too hot for UK sights. Once we get it back together, we'll know what's happening with that. We might have to put a weaker spring in it because of the improvements we'll be making elsewhere, which will boost the FPS up. I know I've just said we stripped it down. This is actually another G&G L85, a pretty much brand new one, which has got a couple of little issues itself with the hop up and stuff like that. probably won't do a video on that one, but it just goes to show they aren't exactly cheap guns and they do have problems. Oh, and the bushes were quite worn as well, so I've got a new set of those ready to go in. But that's all going to be in part 2, which I'm hopefully going to have out in the next fortnight. The gun's actually moved on a fair bit already from what you've seen in the video. But anyway, if you found this useful, maybe hit that like button for me, maybe subscribe to the channel. It's actually, hold on, it's actually 20 to 1 in the morning of the 13th of June, which is actually my birthday. I'm 39 today. So give me a wee like or a wee subscribe, you know, a wee birthday present, that'd be brilliant. But until next time, take it easy, and I'll catch you in the next one.